What's up, folks? Welcome inside the Sportsnet Digital Studio. Kevin, Michie, Chris Morrison alongside you. We are breaking down the greatest male and female wrestlers in WWE of the decade. Chris, let's start with the women because there is a women's revolution this decade. Give me your favorite women's wrestler.
Well, I mean, this is a tough pick for me. There are so many great female wrestlers, not only in WWE, but in all of the world. But ultimately, I got to go with the Queen, Charlotte. She's got the Flair blood in her. I've loved to see how she's transitioned. She's gone from not really applying all the classic Ric Flair traits, and then as she's morphed into the Queen and into the main event and winning how many ever WWE champion. 9 she's won, and she's probably lost 8, right? Or something like that.
That's the math.
Yeah, and I have loved to see how she's transitioned and she's applied all these classic Ric Flair isms that he is so widely renowned for. And to me, she is the best wrestler, pound for pound, skill, she's got it all.
Here's what I'll say about Charlotte.
Okay.
I think you may be right. Pound for pound, she may be the best wrestler, either gender. Athletically, she's superior to almost anyone. However, her 9 reigns equal less than Becky Lynch's 4 reigns, or whatever that she's had. Becky Lynch is a superstar. Becky Lynch crosses the border of sports entertainment. She breaks into everything. She made WWE relevant. She made the WWE women's division relevant. Becky was so good. She had that Stone Cold Steve Austin vibe to her. I'm not saying she was Stone Cold Steve Austin. She had that vibe to her.
She still does. She still
Becky
has that vibe,
will always will be a badass, and I think for that reason, Becky Lynch is my pick for female wrestler of the decade.
Okay, I mean, I don't disagree with that pick. That's a good pick. The only thing I will say about Charlotte, though, is when you take the longevity of how long Charlotte has been in the main event scene, Becky Lynch, she's had the skill and she's had that potential, but it really hasn't. What was it when she became the man? I believe it was around January, maybe December of 2018.
It was a heel turn, right?
Yeah, so I feel like as great as that is, the longevity just isn't there. And it's maybe not because of her, maybe it is because of booking in WWE, but I feel like Charlotte has been in that main event scene. She's been the main event player. She took down Nikki Bella. She's taken down Asuka, who was, undefeated going through NXT. I think even into WWE. I think that might be her only loss was to Charlotte at WrestleMania. The only thing I would question about the Becky Lynch pick is just the longevity of it all.
To be the man, you got to beat the man.
The man.
And Charlotte's got to beat Becky to be the man.
I guess so, but I mean, isn't she already the man, by proxy of her dad being the guy who came up with that catchphrase?
Let's talk about the men.
Okay.
Who is the man in the men's division for you? Your pick for male wrestler of the decade.
Well, again, there are lots of wrestlers that you can choose for this that deserve this, but for me, it's got to be CM Punk, and here's why. I know he hasn't been in the WWE or in wrestling for the last 5 or 6 years, I believe it's been, so, right? The one thing I will say, the most important thing though, with CM Punk was in 2011 when he dropped the pipe bomb and when he threatened to leave WWE with the WWE Championship. That brought, myself included, and I could probably speak for a lot of people out there, that brought a lot of people back to wrestling, and that brought wrestling, that propelled it into like pop culture for a brief time, and then I think it sank out of it a little bit. But when he dropped that pipe bomb, I mean, he was on the Bill Simmons podcast, and Bill Simmons was, it maybe still is, one of the most popular sports podcasts. He was doing interviews with like Esquire magazine, I believe it was. And then just that main event match, the fact that he went up against John Cena, and everybody going into it, including myself, was thinking, there's no way CM Punk defeats John Cena for the WWE Championship and walks out of Chicago with it. Lots of times I think we both can agree, that when superstars wrestle in their hometowns, they don't always come out on top. And so for CM Punk to go into Money in the Bank, to defeat John Cena, to survive the McMahon screwjob attempt, and then to walk out of Chicago with the championship, and then hold on to it once he got it back, of course, from Alberto Del Rio at Survivor Series later on that year, to hold on to it for 434 days, the longest reign of the modern era in WWE at that time. And to go up against, Cena's, to go up against The Rock's, his promo package with the Undertaker, where he took Paul Bear's ashes and wiped them across his chest right before WrestleMania 29. I think CM Punk, even though it was only from about 2011 to 2014, I think CM Punk is what every wrestler now aspires to be and to do, with how he is in the ring, how he looks, and hey, you and I are both big music guys. I mean, he introduced me to Killswitch Engage.
Here's what I'll say about CM Punk. The music, outstanding.
Yes.
The Killswitch intro will always be my favorite. The Cult of Personality, it's a good one.
Yeah.
Here's what I'll say about CM Punk. Outside of the Money in the Bank match against John Cena, name me the best CM Punk match that you can think of off the top of your head, wrestling-wise. Because he always brought it in the promos. When he dropped the pipe on, he said, "I'm the best on this microphone." I said, "Yeah." In that ring, I said,
You know what? I would say that he had a really great match with The Undertaker at WrestleMania 29. That was one of my favorite streak matches.
Golly, a good match.
Yeah, well, I think it's a great match for CM Punk against The Undertaker. I mean, obviously, when you think Undertaker in the streak, you're thinking of Shawn Michaels and maybe even his matches with Triple H. But I think CM Punk being put into that spot, even though he was the champion at the Royal Rumble, and then I believe he wrestled John Cena for the #1 contendership spot to face The Rock at WrestleMania in the main event, and he didn't win that match. But I would argue wrestling The Undertaker at WrestleMania is just as important as the title.
I would say that you're right. That match isn't memorable. You know what is memorable? From the year 2010 to approaching 2020, any match that AJ Styles was in.
Okay.
AJ Styles is my pick for male wrestler of the decade. You start in 2010. This guy was Pro Wrestling Illustrated's #1 wrestler. He was ranked #1. Let's go through the accolades throughout the rest of the decade. He is a 2-time WWE champion. He is a 3-time US champion. He is a IWGP heavyweight champion. He is an Impact champion. This is all in this decade.
Yep.
He has won 3 years in a row PWI's Favorite Wrestler of the Year. This guy cannot be stopped. And do you know why we remember all these things about AJ Styles? Do you know why I'm picking him? I'm picking him over CM Punk. He puts on the best wrestling matches. Right. CM Punk, you'll remember him because he dropped the pipe bomb. It was incredible. Money in the Bank, fantastic. You know what I'm going to remember, though? I remember that, and then him introducing us to a different style of wrestling, but now the guys that are far superior at that style of wrestling.
Right.
AJ Styles, the best wrestler in WWE, the best wrestler throughout the course of this decade, through any organization, doesn't matter if it's WWE or elsewhere. AJ Styles, the top. And you know who's second on the list to the longest reign behind CM Punk for holding the WWE title? AJ Styles. AJ is so good. He would be on my list for any number of favorite matches of the decade. I know you mentioned earlier one of your favorite matches of the decade was Charlotte and Asuka at WrestleMania.
It's one of my favorite, yeah.
Do you have any others that you were really into? And feel free to say AJ, please.
Well, I mean,
feel free to pick a few AJ matches.
You know, I'm not. It's hard to. When you're arguing these types of topics, I think a lot of it comes down to preference. And for anybody who's watching this video who knows us from our past days on Top Turnbuckle, will know that one of my main things has always been the story, and it's always been about promos. I've always been more attracted to wrestlers who can be funny on the mic or entertaining on the mic or captivate me on the mic. And as great as the matches are now, some of my fondest memories are still from the past decades, from the Hogan years and the Austin era, because of how good the guys were on the mic, how interesting their characters were. But to get
so unfortunately, you cannot pick your favorite match from a previous decade.
I can't. No.
You stick with this decade.
Maybe in another YouTube video. But what I will say for my favorite match, and again, this just is because of who the guy was and how hard I was cheering for this guy, and the fact that Seth Rollins, the way he broke up the Shields, one of the best breakups in professional wrestling history. Probably right behind the Rockers breaking up. For me, the barbershop window, man.
Wow.
For me, it's Seth Rollins at WrestleMania Play Button, cashing in Money in the Bank. He turned Brock Lesnar and his match with Roman Reigns for the WWE title into a triple threat match, and he saved us, most of us, from seeing Roman Reigns potentially crowned WWE champion.
Briefly.
And the fact that he came in, cashed in, won, ran back up to the stage and held the belt up, and then went on, I would say, until he got hurt. I believe it was against Kane. He tore his meniscus or his ACL or one of the...
It was just in that house show. He just randomly flipped over the top turnbuckle, and then he tore his knee open.
So whatever it was, that ruined everything. That ruined his reign, and who knows where he could have gone after that. But I would say Seth Rollins cashing in the main event. I don't think we'd ever seen that before either in the main event of a WrestleMania.
Main event of WrestleMania, that was the first time ever.
First time, yeah. So that's for me the top match, I would say, in my.
So here's what I like about that match. Again, it's the moment, and this is where you and I differ.
Right.
The moment, super cool. The match up until that point, it was a Brock Lesnar match.
Yeah.
It was fun, hard hitting. There was some blood somewhere. Sure, I had a good time.
Yeah.
Rollins comes in, incredible moment. For me, the best match that I saw, NXT TakeOver Toronto 1.
Oh. I thought you were going to go with Brooklyn. I thought Brooklyn was going to follow. Okay, Toronto.
Because I was there personally.
Okay.
DIY versus the Revival, best 2 to 3 falls match.
Yes.
That match, I've never seen a better match live in my life, and I don't know to this day I've ever seen a better tag team match in my life. And it was a 2 to 3 falls match, so you got to think like, oh, it's gimmicked up. It's gonna be all kinds of bells and whistles on it. It was just an incredible match the entire time. The crowd was as hot as I've ever seen it. And then Samoa Joe and Shinsuke Nakamura had to follow that. Yeah. They couldn't. And those guys were two of the greatest NXT superstars of all time. But at NXT TakeOver Toronto 1 at Survivor Series in 2016, this match set the bar for tag team wrestling, and it's propelled tag team wrestling into, I don't think WWE the stratosphere that they want it to be, but the Revival and then guys like Ciampa and Gargano, they helped elevate what will be an even better tag team division in the future.
I would agree with you on that, in that what Gargano and Ciampa did, and even the Revival and so many others, and even now with the Street Profits. What they're doing is
love the smoke.
Right. You're right though. They created something. They started something in NXT, and that's what one of the best things about NXT is, that so much stuff gets started there. Unfortunately, when they go to the main roster, it tends to die off and get lost in the shuffle. But I would agree with you in that with DIY, right?
Do it yourself.
Do it yourself. And the Revival and some of the other tag teams there, they definitely created a potential for tag team wrestling.
Okay, so to recap, your favorite female wrestler of the decade?
Charlotte.
Your favorite male wrestler?
It's got to be CM Punk.
And your favorite match?
Is Seth Rollins cashing in his Money in the Bank to win the WWE Championship at WrestleMania Play Button.
Becky Lynch for female. The phenomenal AJ Styles for male, and then DIY versus the Revival is my favorite match of the decade. Who are your picks? Who do you like for male, female match of the decade? Hit us up in the comments below and let us know what you think. And if you're not down with that, we got 2 words for you.
Like.
Subscribe.